Hello, my name's Anne Clark Stewart, and I'm here in the home of Gladys Comeau. Gladys is the survivor of Gilbert Comeau, who was a pensioner with Nortel. And we're going to talk to Gladys this morning to see how she feels about the Nortel bankruptcy and how it's impacting her life. Hello, Gladys.
Good morning, Anne.
Could you tell us just a little bit about yourself, about where you were born and where you grew up?
Well, I just still am a prairie girl. I've always said that. I was born in Edmonton, had a wonderful childhood life, and then we went to Langley, BC, where I carried on my studies. And then later on, I came to Quebec, and I love it here. And I've been here many, many years.
How long have you been in Quebec?
Since 1955, I believe.
Quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
How did you meet your husband, Gilbert?
I was adventuresome. I said to myself, I'm out west. I think I'll travel. And this is what I did. And I knew my mom came from Quebec, but I didn't have any relatives that I knew at that time. Then I said, I'll work a little bit. And in those days, you could go anywhere and you get a job just like that. And it actually was Northern Electric. And that's where I met my husband.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And he had 9 years service at the time. I thought he was older. Wow.
And how long were you and Gilbert married?
It would be just under 39 years, yes.
And where did you live?
We lived in Chateauguay, 45 years. I think it was just a year in Ville-Saint-Pierre, which is right next to Lachine.
Mm-hmm.
And then we bought our home after my dad passed away. And we were there from 1960 to, well, till Gil passed away. And then I stayed on till 2005.
Did Gil talk much about his life and his work at Nortel?
Yes and no. It just depended. And then later on, I worked in the city. So, you know, you'd get home, you'd relax at the table. You didn't talk that much about work later years. In the beginning, it's like in the old days, people that worked for Bell, Ma Bell, oh, mother takes care of us. Northern Electric takes care of its own. And this went on for many years.
And what do you think he would think about how Nortel is right now?
He probably would say, like a politician said one day not too long ago in Parliament to the power in Parliament, l'écraseur. He would have, I'm sure he would have said that,
And
if not more.
And what does that mean?
Well, it's not as bad as all that, but I think people can figure that out for themselves.
Okay. And when did Gilbert pass away?
September 13th, 1995.
So you've been on your own for a while.
Yes, yes.
And what has your life been like since Gilbert's passed on?
Well, it was quiet for a little bit, and then I just turned to my friends that I knew in my youth. And I would go to the States, my friend from Toronto. Actually, she paid my fare, and I'd dog sit.
Mm-hmm.
I'd do the same for her sister in Lake Muskoka. And 1992 was my first high school reunion of 40 years, and a lot of contact. So for a long time, it was with the people that I knew very young.
And what kind of things do you do locally to keep yourself busy?
Oh, in Chateauguay, I did volunteer for St. Vincent de Paul. I think when the children were younger, a little bit of guides, not that much. And now I'm doing the same thing here, St. Vincent de Paul. I also, when I first came here, as my granddaughter was considerably younger than my two grandsons from my eldest son in Chateauguay, I would pick her up from school, take her to ballet. I'd be there, whatever was needed, which I, of course, enjoyed. I did volunteer in the school library. This is all in French. I taught catechism for 2 years in French. Now that my granddaughter's in College St. Anne, I'm not as needed as much there. But then I do St. Vincent de Paul. What else do I do? I'm also the condo. I do a little bit with the liaison with the administrator, and we all get along very well.
Very nice. And is there anything else that you've been doing locally?
Well, yes, of course, the church activities, not just St. Vincent de Paul, but the Catholic Women's League, and whatever events that's going on. I try to be there.
And what kinds of things do you do with the Catholic Women's League?
Oh, I'm just the recording secretary, which means I type up the minutes, and when there's events, I'll bring sandwiches or whatever is required.
Gladys, when did you first hear about the Nortel bankruptcy?
When the Monitor, I opened the letter in January of 2009, and that immediately struck me. I wasn't going to sit down and do nothing.
Did you realize at the time how it would impact you?
The actual percentages and all, no. But I think I've mentioned before that the first thing I did, I said I have an MP, I have an MNA, membre du Assemblée Nationale in Quebec. So I called both offices, and I specifically requested what type of documentation is written in regards to, and I said, here's the letter. And it took them a while. They had to go into the library, I believe, and they did send me the effects of bankruptcy on company-sponsored pensions. And at that time, I said to the very nice lady in my MP's office, I said, you're getting many calls. No, you're the first. And that actually, I was very surprised. I would have thought many companies since 1867 have gone under. Why has nobody ever requested? That was my first thought. But I was interested, and I was going to do whatever I could.
Gladys, now that we know what's going to happen to us with the pensioners losing half their pensions, the disabled losing most of their income, the terminated employees not getting any severance pay, with all of us losing our medical and life insurance, how does that make you feel?
It's very difficult. There's probably many adjectives. And you know, I can't think of one. It's just, first of all, it's incredible. Nobody would have thought. And then it comes to mind, who was at the head? What was going on? Something was wrong. Now, of course, I'm also not only working sort of for myself to get information, but I have since July of 2009 contacted the Nortel Retirees Protection Committee, and I have been asking, and I've been working with doing whatever I can. I wish I could do more, and I'm finding it very difficult as time goes on. I think I said in front of FINA, as well as Industry, Science, and Technology committees when I was asked to appear, that people will be having anxiety, depression, and whatever. And I do have my moments. Fortunately, I'm not as ill as some others. They're going to suffer a great deal. And I do get rather angry when some say, well, look at some of these Nortel people. They can go south, they can do this. Excuse me. They worked for every cent of their pension. That's their deferred wages. And get me going on this. I won't stop. I'll have to stop. Go ahead, Anne.
Did you ever think that this would happen in Canada and to a company like Nortel in particular?
Never. Never.
And did you ever imagine yourself being a letter writer to MPs, MNAs, the Prime Minister?
I think the only time I wrote was some years ago when I was on unemployment for a couple of months. And I wrote my local MNA. And that was about it. Just to say I want a clean file, because somebody had said that I didn't want to work. And I had just gotten a very excellent job as secretary to vice president in a shipping company. So I was only off a couple of months, and I was a little bit surprised. But outside of that, never.
And what kind of volume of letters are you writing now?
since last year, I can't tell you. Oh, I know. The printer, I have a very ordinary computer and printer, and I'm on my third cartridge in a year.
In a year.
Or less.
Based on all that you've seen and done over the last year and a half, who do you think is to blame for this awful mess?
I could easily say mismanagement, there probably was, and I was at a little gathering the other day of mostly Lachine people, retirees, and one girl said, "Why can't we sue?" Was it Roth? Was it one of the former directors? And of course I can't answer that. But people are thinking in that line.
Mm-hmm. And what's your reaction to hearing the CEOs and politicians saying it would be bad for business to protect employers and pensioners in bankruptcy?
I think if I was a cat or a dog, my hair would be right up to the ceiling, straight up. This is, what is the matter with these people? I mean, 2000 was coming in, the century. You heard, oh, disaster, this is this, and this is that. Nothing. So why can't the politicians take a little risk? I don't think there's the risk what these business people or whatever talk about. Why not take the risk and give us what we are asking, which is not monies, it's our right. It's very difficult to understand. And the business people, yes, when you have a business, you have to think of the employees. But when business says right in front of the government, you do this for the Nortel pensioners, there's going to be, we'll lay off, or we'll do this. They may not have said those words, but they certainly said words that the first thing that came to mind, threats.
And what did you do as a result of hearing some of these things?
Well, because the day that I appeared in front of INDU, there was a Royal Bank employee who was with another gentleman as Chamber of Commerce, but this gentleman was the Royal Bank, opposing us. What else can I say? Opposing us. I didn't like that. So I went to the Royal Bank, and I wrote, and I said, is this your attitude? This was your employee, the little amount that I have there, which because of my dad in the early 1900s Royal Bank, I just kept that little account. My husband had a different account, and I, of course, went there after he passed away. And I told them, I'm taking everything out because of this attitude. And I did. It's not a great deal, but I did. Every penny is out.
And did you also ask other people to do that?
I most certainly did.
And what kind of reaction are you getting from those people?
Well, I've got a reaction. 3 years ago, we took out of the Royal for some reason or other. Oh, I've never been, but I would take out of the Royal. Oh, I think that's what I'm going to do. Another person said, oh, all the years, Gladys. This is rather difficult. I'm tempted. He spoke with his Royal Bank manager. Now, whether he will or not. But this is, yes, I tell everybody. And I'm after the bank that I'm going to, which I had an account with in the first place, to give some kind of statement. They are certainly for the pensioners, but they feel they cannot commit in public too much. But they are there for me, which I presume they better be.
And have there been other Nortel pensioners that have followed on and done the same thing that you're aware of?
I believe so. Not everybody has come to me, but they have gone to a member of the committee in Ottawa, which I believe you've heard this, yes. I'm sure. Yes.
And can you tell us, have you done something else with another company?
No, not really. Not as familiar. I've seen people talking about Bell, but I'm not familiar with that. Maybe I will write as well. It's just something I'm not as familiar with.
And what's your personal goal in what you're doing now?
I will not stop until I see what the NRPC has been asking for is it almost 20,000 people?
Yes.
And in future, to the benefit of all Canadians. And I still think, what about all those companies before us? It was terrible. Singer, Eaton's, and I don't remember all of them since 1867. And that, I think that right should be corrected all across for all those years. And I will never, ever stop until I see satisfaction, definite satisfaction for us.
If you could get in to see Stephen Harper, what would you say to Stephen Harper?
Probably what I've just said to you. This should have been corrected many years ago. Obviously, Mr. Harper will say it wasn't only our government, there were other governments before. But I would say that. It should be corrected all across the board.
And what do you see as one of the big injustices in this whole process?
Oh, this is a difficult one. I can say injustice, but perhaps I'd have to be very sure of what I said. There has been injustice, but to pinpoint it, I think someone with more knowledge technically could help on that. I well believe there's been injustice and maybe should eventually go before the Justice Committee. Someone should, white-collar fraud, but I'm not too sure, but there may be. But the injustice also is something I never even thought of in my whole life, lobbyists. I had heard the word lobby, but I never knew there was such a thing as a firm of lobbyists. And I just think it's how shall I put it? It's very low. It's wrong. I thought Mr. Harper was going to get rid of such. He did something, but I thought in the beginning the word lobbyist came up and he was to do something. I just don't believe in it, and I never, ever will, because you can never convince me that everything they do is straight forward and honest. I'm sorry. Someone can come back to me, oh no, never, but I will never believe that, and I can't.
And how long do you see yourself keeping up this fight, Gladys?
While I'm still standing, without question, without question. I'm not the only one, there's others to think of. I'm not alone.
Gladys, do you have any opinion on some of the former CEOs of Nortel and some of the people that were on the board of directors?
Opinion. I don't remember them all, unfortunately, but there is a name that comes to mind very quickly, and I did not know this. It isn't that long ago. I learned just before the vote of May the 26th, the second reading for Bill C-501 to go into committee, and of course it was passed, thank you, that John Manley was lobbying. I hate the word. I just choke on it. That he was lobbying against us. Then I was told, much to my surprise, that this former Liberal minister was a director in Nortel. And in the years that he was there, I have been told since that he helped run Nortel into the ground, didn't bother about the employees, obviously, along with the junk bond holders, for whom he's being paid to lobby for. Can you imagine what I thought? It just was incredible. And then I heard this man was running to be a leader of the Liberal Party, which I didn't even remember. I understand. I don't think anybody wants to look at him now. Certainly I don't. I do not ever want to run into him. It would be beneath me to even nod and say, it'd be completely beneath me. I think it's just the worst thing I ever heard.
Could you tell me if there was anybody whose testimony you heard in the industry committee that bothered you?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the two gentlemen that were representing the Chamber of Commerce and the gentleman, Jonathan Allen. And I spoke to him after, because the name Allen happens to be my mother's name, and it's Scotch. And I can't remember the exact wording. He was quiet, and at the end he just kind of said no. But while he was talking, and I'm shaking my head at times, the words that came out, I cannot tell you exactly, I'd have to look at the transcript again, and I'm just shaking my head, No, you can't do this, you can't do that. The economy, the this and the that. This is not exactly true. It was stretched. And as I said, to me, they're looking at government people to whom I still respect, I always will, no matter what party affiliation. I have respect for these people. I didn't think the business people had respect. They actually, more or less, threatened the government. That you do this. Oh no. No, that was, to sit there and hear that, it was quite difficult. I found it difficult when I went to sit after and give my prepared speech, and I certainly went ad-libbing way off it, because I had to mention what I've just heard is threatening the government. And then I stumbled around, but I had to say it. I think that just about covers, I wish I could say more, and I could also say one other thing, lobby. Our demonstration, October 21st, 2009, after I was taken care of by one of the MPs that I know very well, her assistant, and we're way down at the end of the west, I think, walking around. We looked at the library at the back, and we're by ourselves, not hardly a soul, and I see this gentleman running out from a door all by himself, and I looked. I said, I know you. It was Dan Boudria. And I looked at him, just like that, and he sort of introduced himself, and he said, I work for, and it meant absolutely nothing. But let me tell you, he did come out of a little door and was running, almost sneakily, which didn't register till after me, the 26th. What does that tell you? What does it tell you, Anne?
Well, it tells me that they don't want to face up to us.
Yes.
Is that what it tells you?
I understand Mr. Manley was scheduled to appear before Industry, Science and Technology, and he sent, his opinions, pawns?
Yes.
He did not appear. He did not appear at all. I wonder why.
Good question. Gladys, I just want to thank you very much for welcoming us into your home and for providing the answers to our questions. And I'm sure that other people will be inspired by what you've been able to do.
Oh, thank you, Anne. It means a great deal that you've taken the time to come here. And I hope other people will get something out of this, because it isn't just for me, it's for all of us. And thank you again.
You're welcome.